Is our mic? There we go. Thank you again. That was beautiful. Good morning and welcome to Mount Vernon Unitarian. Good morning and welcome. Yes, thank you. To Mount Vernon Unitarian Church. My name is Sally Henrahan, and I am a member of this congregation. Our church is offering our Sunday services both in person and virtually. Whether you are here in the chapel or joining us from home, you are welcome. We gather to recommit ourselves to the mission of this church, to support one another in our spiritual journeys, to work for justice, to care for the earth, and to build the common good. It is great to be together. We do have some announcements this morning. To begin, we will be offering the history of the AR-15 on Sunday, December 8th at 11:30 a.m. after the church service in the Hall fireplace room. It will cover how a weapon designed for the military became the weapon of choice for mass shooters. John Johnson, who will be providing the lesson, is a retired mechanical engineer and MVUC member. He has been involved in gun violence prevention for 30 years. He served as director of Iowans for the Prevention of Gun Violence from 2000 through 2006 and co-founded the campaign to keep guns off campus in 2008. This morning, we welcome Reverend Kimberley Debus to our pulpit, and we are so glad to have her here. Reverend Kimberley Debus is a minister based in Tacoma Park, inspiring an artful and art-filled faith. She consults with congregations and religious professionals throughout the denomination. In addition to her consulting ministry, she also serves the Cedarhurst UUs in the greater Baltimore area. She has previously served at the Church of the Larger Fellowship, as well as congregations along the Eastern Seaboard and Great Lakes region. This morning, after the service, Reverend Kimberley is leading the first session of our covenanting process at 11:30 after coffee. Lastly, please continue to look to your emails, phones, and the MVUC website for continued updates about worship and other church happenings. And know, if you are ever in need, your church staff is an email or phone call away. I invite you now to take a deep breath with me as we enter into this time of worship.
Here in the advent of winter, we wait. We wait for the sun to return, for the oil to last, for the baby to be born. In this season of waiting, this time when the days grow shorter and the nights grow longer, as we keep watch for hope and peace, joy and love to be born in our midst, may the wings of the Spirit open softly within us, gracing us with inspiration so that our waiting itself becomes the place of a new creation. We light this first candle of Advent, a reminder of the expansive love that holds us in these dark days. Why don't you take the one about? Yes. Yes. Sometimes the old ways are the best. No. Advent is stubborn, and we have to wait for the light, right? And as we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, let us give thanks for the life, rest, healing, hope, love, and beauty that are offered to us only in the quiet of dark, long nights. Come, beautiful souls, let us worship together. And let us begin our worship by rising in body and spirit and singing hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit.
Thank you.
remain standing as we unite our voices to speak aloud the covenant of our community. These words are both known within our heart and on our order of service. Love is the teaching of this church. The quest of truth is its daily task, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life in community, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. This is our covenant with each and with all. Thank you. You may be seated. We come now to the morning offering. Mount Vernon Unitarian Church continues to share the plate with committed organizations that you, our members, have chosen. During the month of December, our offering is being shared with United Community. At this time, I'd like to introduce Steve Lutheran, Chief of Programs of United Community, to share with us some information about their vital programs.
Good morning, everyone. So it's Advent today. Advent is a season of hope. And today I'll talk about United Community and what we do there, but it is about hope. At the end of the day, when people have hope, they continue on. It's only when they lose hope and fall into despair that lives fall apart. United Community has been serving Alexandria since 1969. We were founded on a simple, profound belief that by working together, we can uplift individuals, we can strengthen families, and we can transform lives by lifting them out of poverty. United Community's mission is all about getting people out of poverty. It's about the dignity of the person. And it all began by a small group of women working out of the basement of Mount Vernon Presbyterian Church over 55 years ago, where they started a clothing drive for those that were cold. The seeds were planted, and this is all about planting seeds. Never underestimate what a few people can set into motion. 55 years later, we continue to carry that legacy forward, evolving to meet the ever-changing needs of Alexandria and its surrounding area. Today, we have over 8 programs. We employ 68 people. We have hundreds of volunteers, and we serve thousands of people each year through our 8 programs. 90% of the clients that come to United Community live at or below the poverty level. And to put that in perspective, imagine living in Alexandria, Virginia, a family of 4 trying to make it on $31,000 a year, a family of 4. Just think what rent is. Many of our families that we serve are rent burdened. Over 50, 60% of their paychecks goes to their rent, and then they have a small amount to live on. That's why we see over 100 families every single day coming to our food pantry that probably most people here are familiar with. We're mostly known for food. Most of our people that come to us are food insecure. One of the sombering statistics that if you live in poverty, not only is it an insult to your dignity, but people that live in poverty, they end up dying 10 years earlier than people that don't live in poverty. If you go down Route 1, you see on one side people that have the means. They have a lot. But on the other side of the road, you just have to cross the other side of the road, and there are people that are barely making ends meet. And we have to do something about that. So in addition to providing food and the basic necessities, we also empower immigrants through our adult literacy and ESL classes. We prepare children for kindergarten through our early learning center. Kids that are successful in school tend to stay in school, and that's how you start helping people end generational poverty. We assist struggling students. We're in Mount Vernon Elementary School. We're in Walt Whitman Middle School, and we have 2 community after-school programs where we do after-school programming, and then in the summer we provide summer camps. Our newest program is called the Family Achievement Program. That offers intensive case management support for 2 years. To get a family out of poverty, it takes 2 to 3 years, because to get out of poverty, the simplest way out of poverty is you have to have a job to get out of poverty. We meet people where they are, and we help them chart that path. We cannot carry out this work without your support. There's always a need for volunteers, and I know many here have volunteered at our food pantry. For the past 35 years, this church has helped United Community. You're a part of our mission, you're a part of our journey, and you're a part of our path. Recently, we embraced on a bold new vision. So what's new at United Community? We are focusing on building a stronger workforce development program, our new North Star at United Community. Because you can serve people, you can feed people, you could pay for their rent to prevent evictions, but if a person does not have a sustainable job worthy of their dignity, it's hard to get them out of poverty. We believe that providing the tools of economic independence is one of the most sustainable ways to break that cycle of poverty. Through comprehensive wraparound services, we're connecting people not just to jobs, but to careers that offer dignity, stability, and a future. And as I mentioned, we can't do this alone. Without your support, we cannot carry out our works at United Community. Your generosity helps us to ensure that families facing crisis get the needed support so that they can sustain their way of life. One example of a person that we helped, and this is many stories I could tell you, but there was a young woman by the name of Maria. She came to our agency. She was hungry. She had 2 children. She was a single mom. She came to Fortune. We helped her with food, but she also brought her eviction notice. She was about to get evicted because she lost her job. She was at the end of her rope. She didn't know what to do. So we're more than just giving food. If you feed a person, they eat for that day. We know the saying, but if you teach them how to fish, they eat for a lifetime. So we asked Maria, what else is going on in your life? We'll help you with the food. We'll prevent the eviction so that you have a roof over your head. But what else do you need? She said, I need help finding a job. So we helped pay for her to get a certification, and she became a certified nursing assistant. After 6 months of the program, she ended up getting a job. She was back on her feet again, and that is the path out of poverty, that you stay the course with a person, you help them. Poverty is complex. There's multiple issues that happen when a family comes to us that are living in poverty. We're talking trauma. We could be talking neglect. We could be talking abuse. So many things our families are facing, and they live right here in Alexandria, which is one of the wealthiest counties in Virginia and in the entire country. But when you see people that live in poverty that are trying to make ends meet, these are the working poor. These are not people that just want to get by. These are people that want to make a life for themselves and for their children. So I really appreciate that the Pass the Plate, I think it's called today, is going to be for United Community, because that money goes to support really, really good causes. I wish everyone here had an opportunity to stop at our food pantry. The holidays are a tough season. Though it's a season of hope, for many of our families, it could be a season of despair if we're not there to help them. So let's make this season their best season ever. We appreciate any support that you offer, because it takes many hands to contribute that make the work light. Thank you again for inviting me.
I now invite the ushers to come forward, please.
morning. Thank you. It's so great to hear these renditions of the Christmas canon. I'm Reverend Eleanor Pease. I'm your pastoral care minister. I want to thank Steve especially for reminding us that the work of caring for one another is not just within our walls. It's throughout our community and throughout the world. And I was, in a way, kind of driven into ministry by anti-poverty work, so I was jumping up and down while you were speaking. I have to begin by saying something sad. As some of you may already have heard, we had a death in the church family. Nan Zimmerman passed away on Friday early morning. And she was a longtime member and especially a member of our online community. So let us remember how important the online community is as part of this huge interdependent web of life, both physical and on the airwaves, right? And it's a reminder that I want to be available to you, especially during the holiday time, because holidays can be hard, partly because things like this can happen during the holidays. And holidays can be hard just because we're extra busy, and holidays can be hard because sometimes we have memories that are not bittersweet. They're still kind of just bitter, that bring us into places that we don't want to go. But I am here, and we are here together to support one another. And I do have a few tips to share for managing holiday stress. The first few are, you'll probably find them in any magazine. Set realistic boundaries, maintain your healthy habits, don't fail to do your meditation just because you have house guests. It's easy to have that happen, but try to do your spiritual practices, get to the gym if that's a thing for you. Set a budget and ask for support. Again, we are here together to support one another. And then my favorite tip for the holiday season is to remember and honor the deeper meaning of what all this is about, what all our extra activities are about. We have spoken of Advent, and that Advent is a time of preparation. It's also a time of reflection. It's a time of integrating maybe lessons that have been learned and preparing ourselves to move forward in something totally new and different and good and beautiful. And for those of us whose spirituality is more tied to the physical world, we have the shortening of the days. This is the shortest time of the year, only 3 weeks until the shortest day of the year. So it's a time to follow our animal and plant friends and hibernate and rest and replenish ourselves, even in the midst of all the activity. How do we find that quiet? So let's make room. Let's make room in our hearts, in our lives, for that time of deep, dark nourishment and reflection. And now, Reverend Kimberley will come back up to lead us in meditation and prayer.
Let us find a position and heart for prayer. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known with us and in us and among us. Remind us that we are not alone in the history. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your Spirit, manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat in diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting dance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice. Source of stars and planets and water and land, open our hearts to all our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So may it be. Blessed be, Ashe, and Amen. And as we breathe, just another moment, and prepare to sing, seated, hymn 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Holy place, our candles for joys and sorrows are open. You may come up and light.
Thank you again. Beautiful. In the interest of time, we are going to skip ahead.
Nope, we're here.
Excuse me. Now let us sing the children out. Before we do that, I don't have the song memorized. We hold. So children are welcome to stay or leave as they may. So to the anthem? We have special music. Okay, we are going to the anthem. We are working this out as we go. Once again, may we remind you, we are still working on our order of service in this time of change and development. Please give us grace. So we will now have our special anthem. We gather together. We will not be having our reading. That will go after our special music. We will proceed directly to the sermon. The reading will be offered in the meeting, offered directly after coffee hour, if you are so inclined to hear the lovely reading. Thank you, and thank you.
Sometimes it's hard to know exactly how long things will take in a service. And we looked at the clock and went, oh no, if we're gonna give people a chance for coffee hour before our session, we have to do a little rearranging and such. So thank you for your grace. This is part of what we do. For several decades now, the Reverend Meg Riley, who is currently co-moderator of the UUA, preaches a sermon fairly often entitled, "For Such a Time as This." Although, to be fair, it's never the same sermon. Because we've been in such a time as this for a long time, and the circumstances that make it so change regularly. Right now, such a time as this is a time of anticipation for what's to come for our nation. An uneasy anticipation as it happens. We've seen the debriefs and explainers about the election, and now we're assessing what's to come and how our congregations are going to respond. It is a get-ready time, what I call institutional adulting. Institutional adulting is getting your congregational house in order so that you can focus on what's coming and what we need to do. No congregation worth its salt can afford the luxury of putting off some of these adulting tasks. No congregation can sit idly by and be surprised when tyranny and hate come knocking. We have to get ready. More than ever, how we build and strengthen our institutions matters, and how we demonstrate our faith matters, and how we proclaim our good news matters, and how we fight tyranny and hate matters. Institutional adulting means getting the bylaws and policies in order. It means settling some outstanding issues. It may also mean attending to overdue repairs to buildings or preparing for new ministries. And it means addressing covenant and right relations. It matters, this work of covenanting, this work of coming into right relationship, because, and I know I've said it here a time or two, we have to get it right inside our walls if we have any hope of getting it right outside our walls. So it might seem like an extraneous thing to bother with in such a time as this, but covenant actually matters more than ever now. Now, I remember back in August when someone brought up the need for a behavioral covenant, and someone else remarked, oh, but we already have one. But no one seemed to know where it was or what was in it. Right? And I suspect parts of the covenant have been broken because that's what happens all too often. Yet it matters that we have the courage to covenant. What do I mean by that? What is a covenant anyway, and why do we have to work on it? You may be asking. And isn't our covenant the words we said a little while ago, printed on the order of service? Well, those words are big, broad things we covenant to. But real covenant in congregations is more complicated than that. I'm going to put on my wannabe history professor, biblical history professor hat for a minute and talk about what we mean by covenant. So too often when we join a congregation, we want to fit in and we figure we'll learn the jargon and the meaning of things through assimilation. We hear words like covenant and chalice and values and figure we'll eventually figure out what they actually mean if we hang around long enough. I remember going through nearly an entire year of high school chemistry before I had the guts to ask the teacher what a mole was and what something called Avogadro's number had to do with it. When in May, I finally asked, and he explained it, the clouds parted and the angels sang, and everything fell into place. I did not go into chemistry, but now the experience I had at age 16 is the same that many of us have as we become part of Unitarian Universalist congregations. We don't necessarily know what all the words mean, or we carry other meanings from other places, and we're often too shy or too deep in to ask. So let's talk about covenant and where it comes from. Here's where Kimberley, the biblical scholar, shows up for a few minutes, and then the church history scholar, and then we're back, okay? So the idea is as old as, well, some of the writings in the Hebrew Scriptures, beginning in Genesis with a guy named Noah. Now, Noah is talking to God, and the God that Noah is talking to is angry with humanity, and God wants to hit the reset button. But God thinks Noah's faithful and has a soft spot for him, so he tells Noah to gather his family and a bunch of animals in a big boat, and that went pretty well, I suppose, although I'm still not sure why Noah saved the mosquitoes. And like God said, a huge flood came and wiped out pretty much everything but the ark and its contents. And I can pretty much imagine Noah and his family freaking out, especially when it seemed like it went on forever. And then God shows up right on cue. So God and Noah make a covenant, which is pretty much stay faithful, and I won't do this flood thing again. A little more like authoritarian rule. As long as the people stay in line, I won't punish you. And then there's Abraham, from whom God also demands fealty, so much so that after making Abraham the father of many nations, he exacts proof in the form of human sacrifice, namely his son, Isaac, which gets a puzzling last-minute reprieve. Again, it's called a covenant, but it's more like quid pro quo. So fast forward a bit into the book of Exodus, and we have Moses, whom God taps to lead the Israelites out of slavery, yay! And in exchange for keeping them safe, gives them a set of rules, commandments, that they must follow. And of course, like many humans do, they bristle against the rules, and as soon as Moses is out of sight, they break the second commandment, you shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. We're just going to ignore the golden calf that Aaron and the people made, right? So by the time Moses is on the mountain chatting with God again, God sees the people melting down metals, and God is angry, and he's so angry. He's so angry, flames coming out of the side of his head, and he threatens another flood. But what's different in this moment is that Moses speaks truth to power, and he says, remember your covenant, how you swore to them by your own self. Do you want to be as bad as those who enslaved us? And as the scripture tells us, the Lord changed his mind about the disaster he planned to bring on his people. So we learn something here from these early stories in the Hebrew Scriptures, that a covenant is not just about rules and how power holds sway over those under them. Sorry. But it's about how those in weaker positions can hold those in power accountable. But that's not all of it. Remember that about 1,000 years after the Egyptian exile, a man we call Jesus came around and he said, all of these rules that you have, these little things about beards and shellfish and circumcision, that's not important. What matters is that you treat each other right, that you seek forgiveness when you blow it. Remember what I taught you about caring for the sick and the poor, and maybe talk about me over a glass of Pinot Noir. It was a new covenant, one that's the model for how we understand covenant today. For you see, what covenant is not about is authority or demands. Covenant is not a set of hard and fast rules that carry punishment. Broken covenants should never end in shunning or punishing or excommunication. But interestingly, that kind of covenant, authoritarian, law-driven, is what our faith is born of. So here's the church historian part. Unitarians and Universalists historically come out of a model called Congregationalism, which was born from the separatist movement in England in the 17th century. These separatists did not like the idea of an overreaching authority in their religious affairs. They thought the king, as head of the Church of England, was as bad as the Pope in Rome. Instead, they thought a church should have autonomy over clergy, liturgy, buildings, music, and behaviors. So to escape what they saw as tyranny, some of these separatists left England to find a place to practice their religion without interference. A good number of these separatists sailed to lands they perceived as unsettled and promptly created their own settlements, much to the dismay of the people already living there. And as these colonizers built their new shining city on a hill, as John Winthrop called it, they developed a covenant of sorts known as the Cambridge Platform, written in 1648 in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Now, there's a lot of talk in Unitarian Universalism about this document, which forwards the ideas of congregational autonomy, along with connection and accountability among congregations. This is really good stuff. This is really responsible stuff, but just underneath all of that is a scary set of rules for who can and can't be members, punishments for misbehavior, and a full chapter on the process of excommunication. In fact, this so-called covenant is also a set of rules enforced by law, not by conscience. And remember, in Massachusetts, the parish was also the legal governance. So apparently that's not it. Fast forward to now. What is covenant to us as modern Unitarian Universalists? First, covenant is a process. As the Reverend Tom Owen Toll points out, it is both a noun and a verb. It implies that covenanting includes a blend of movement and substance, action and context. When we are in covenant, we're not just debating and discussing, we're actively in relationship. And our UUA bylaws affirm it. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. I love this statement. We draw from our heritage of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. That's what we as an association of congregations are covenanting for. That process, loving covenanting. The covenant is also a call to generosity. When we are in covenant, we give of our time, our talents, our resources, and our respect. As Owen Toll writes, covenant points not only to who we are, but primarily to whose we are, meaning we're responsible to one another to be giving. We are not the sum of our aspirations or affirmations, but rather the sum of our gifts. Dr. Janice Marie Johnson says covenants are audacious. People rarely commit to one another outside of maybe marriage. We are taught to judge quickly, to trust no one, to be for ourselves alone. Covenanting requires that we trust each other and be deeply connected to other souls. And in this world, in such a time as this, that's audacious. How dare we think about other people and their souls? You see, covenant is both obligation and blessing. We enter into a shared journey where some of us will sometimes stumble and fall short, yet we continue to be bound together. Covenant asks us to be in right relationship with each other. And that means we show each other mercy when things go awry. We forgive. We offer help. We don't retaliate. Rather, we offer to help heal what is broken. And covenant requires us to negotiate and compromise, even as the covenant remains in place. Sometimes parts of a covenant no longer work for everyone. Things need to be adjusted. And that's okay, because that's not a sign of the covenant's weakness, but rather its strength, that it can bend and not break. Sometimes covenant needs to be re-examined after a crisis, or after a bunch of new people join in the covenant, or when its omissions become glaring holes. But ultimately, when we approach covenant with respect and love and shared awe and open-heartedness, covenanting together means we're greater than the sum of our parts and stronger together, even when things break down, which it will, because humans are messy and multiple humans together make a big mess. But covenant calls us like the oft-forgotten line in the familiar poem attributed to Rumi. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times, come yet again. Come. And so it's not about taking our toys or our pledges and going home. It's not about ghosting or cutting folks off when they've messed up or when we've messed up. Though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, covenant asks us to come back. Come yet again, come. And that takes courage. It takes courage to create a covenant of right relations. And that creation has to be driven by everyone. It can't be driven by the people in power, whether that's positional power like boards and religious professionals, or systemic power like, the longtime members or the top donors. The process has to be courageous enough to include all the voices of those who have agreed to freely come together in the process of creating and living it out. It takes courage to write a covenant of right relations that actually treats everyone like a person with inherent worth and dignity. It takes courage to see a covenant of right relations not as yes or no, but yes and. In a world where too often we must choose between false binaries like this or that, yes or no, good or evil, friend or enemy, black or white. Covenant suggests that there are multiple choices that may all be true. Covenant asks us to look for possibility, to say yes, and this too. It takes courage to covenant, especially when covenant is broken. Covenant audaciously says, come back anyway, trust anyway, make room anyway. We have to get this right. We need you, all of us, to do this intimate, close, hard work. We must pay close attention to how we create and live out covenants in our congregations. We must have the courage to get it right here so that we have a foundation of trust for facing the uncertain times ahead. Now, Vernon, we need you. We need you to be strong, brave, ready for the work ahead, ready to love the hell out of this world. So are you ready? Let's covenant with one another and let us be one. I invite you to rise and body your spirit and sing hymn number 318, We Would Be One.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction comes from Sherry Woodbury. Let us be accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the wholehearted process and practice of love. As we continue to listen and learn, to act and grow, may each unfold in happiness, both deeply loving and truly loved. Go in love, go in joy, come back here at 11:30, and go in peace.